It's one more and I'm out of here. The promise that we will leave soon. It's Illegal Shift, the one sports show that can't talk down to you. I'm John. I'm joined as always by Jason Kiefer, an American firefighter somewhere in America's Rust Belt, possibly touching Kentucky. Kiefer, it's been about 3 weeks since we've done this show, and my inbox has been flooded with questions, complaints. Where's the show? Are you coming back? Don't leave us, John.
Don't leave.
I've received 0 messages. I don't think anyone noticed at all that we were on a brief and unavoidable hiatus. So, to those people that did not notice I was gone and did not care if I never came back, I'm back, baby. Out of pure spite.
Just because.
Just because Andrew Pappas has the morning off, I'm here to talk to you about sports. Will Curry says he noticed. Tyler says he noticed. Both of those guys noticed. All right.
Tyler said Keith's been being selfish. He's been busy being selfish and not broadcasting.
He's been busy. Well, he also went to a guy's funeral, so like it wasn't exactly like that. Let's do a quick ad read, folks. The show's brought to you by GhostBed. Use that offer code Wolfpack. You get 10% off site wide. Holy shit! Not only are they still using a logo for failure to stop from clearly 4 years ago, but you can find all kinds of great stuff there. Look at all their bed frames, their bundles, their bedding, their pillows, their accessories. Look at this adjustable base for your legs. This is going to make your legs feel super comfortable. Now with even more savings. It looks like they've got a Memorial Day savings sale going on as well. Now's the time. You can contact GhostBed. Go to their website. They've got great value, excellent products here. Stuff that's just designed to make the most out of you having a great night's sleep. This bed I'm looking at right now, it's 11 feet tall or long. Do you know what that means? It means I can lay down in this and my feet don't dangle over the edge. This looks like a fantastic bed. It's got 4 layers of comfort and support. Ghost ice cover for consistently cool sleeping surface. Specialty Ghost bounce foam for instant pressure relief so your back doesn't hurt. Procore layer with 33% more support when your body needs it the most. It's proudly made in the United States of America, which means GhostBed will always be free from the tyranny and terror of tariffs, no matter what happens in the market, because GhostBeds are proudly made here. They will come to you without any markup met out by the Chinese or anyone else. You can pick your size, pick your firmness, everything that you want so that you can make the most out of your sleep. I encourage you guys to go over there. Make sure you use that offer code Wolfpack so that they know, hey, it's those it's Eric Tanzi's gang that's over there that's sending people. And you could try the 101 night sleep trial. You can get additional warranties if you want to protect your purchases even longer. They have all kinds of great stuff over there. RV mattresses. Just, it's a great company, folks, and they're what keep us going. So I really encourage you guys to go over there, check out their site-wide discounts, check out their sale for Memorial Day. It's just what our nation's veterans would have wanted you to do. So I'm speaking specifically of the heroes of Valley Forge and the Battle of Bunker Hill. Those guys didn't even get a bed, so they would have loved that.
Yeah, you got to tug on the heartstrings. I like it.
Well, some of us will never get over the Revolutionary War. The show's also brought to you by the Commodore Business Machine. You remember Commodore. We're still here. The name you trusted when floppy disks were still the future and modems screamed like banshees in the night. Today, Commodore Business Machine is proud, no grateful, to still offer the same reliable technology that you loved in 1983. The machines may not run JavaScript or YouTube or anything past Netscape Navigator 3, but they boot up. Slowly but faithfully. They missed out on a few trends. The mouse. They didn't realize that was not a cheap fad. Graphical interfaces. Hey, DOS seemed to be just the best thing. Cooling fans. Whatever they lack functionality, they make up for it in true character. And not just because of their antique value. Dust off your old 64K, fire up your dial-up, and let's log on together. And let's wait for a JPEG to load. Still loading.
A Commodore.
Just barely.
I can see 2 lines of data.
You can see 2 lines of data. Remember, Keith, I'm gonna put you on the spot here, but remember when you're 13, you had a little bit of computer time to yourself? You got somebody in a swimsuit. It took all goddamn day to the point where, like, by the time it was fully loaded, you're like, well, I've come to my senses. I don't need to do this anymore.
I feel horrible about myself right now.
Horrible about myself.
And I had to shut the window because Mom was coming down the hallway.
Great memories, folks.
Hey, I'm going to make a quick disclaimer to the listeners / viewers. If you hear a crazy lunatic dog barking, I have HVAC people in my house currently, and Brody thinks that he's the lieutenant colonel of the Paw Patrol and also an HVAC tech. So hopefully they will keep it down. But
is Brody a dog?
Yes, Brody.
What kind of dog?
He looks like Benji. I don't know what kind of dog that is.
How can I know about Commodores but not Benji? That makes no sense.
You don't know what Benji looks like?
That was way back in 1983.
The year of our Lord.
Yes, the year of our Lord, 1983. Thank you for remembering my bits. So what's going on in the world of sports? A couple big things. I guess, there's really jockeying for what's the big news of the day, whether or not it was the untimely passing of Jim Irsay or if it was the Tush push. As someone who's not a Colts fan, I decided to kind of focus on the Tush push because I don't want to get too depressing. Plus, we'll talk about Jim Irsay, but what do you really say about it other than, it really shouldn't have happened? But the Fox Sports, this is per them. They're keeping the Tush push and they're preserving what makes the NFL great. Some detractors of the Tush push, the short yardage play for the Philadelphia Eagles. Some people hate it because they're like, well, this is a cheat code. This is a rugby play. And some really chicken shit people are like, but what about player safety? Yeah. So there were not way more dangerous plays on there. Or as though life were not all a mere gamble itself,
I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall for those meetings.
I heard they got it kind of intense.
Yeah, they said it got heated. I would have loved to have just listened because you and I have talked about it a ton.
We've also scrimmaged a little bit.
We practiced.
Mm-hmm. We've practiced the Tush push, but at the fire station, it means something else. But.
Right. You realize that I stopped right there.
Sorry.
But no, I mean, we've talked about it, and it's, we've said, formulate a defense to stop it.
Yeah, I feel like that's. Don't litigate it out of existence. Don't have the NFL do your bidding for you because it's just too hard.
Right. I mean, I'm pretty positive the Bengals couldn't defend it, but guess what? Learn how. I mean, it's fucking football. A play was developed that is working, and now all of a sudden you want to stifle it just because you don't like it because it's probably beating your ass a couple times.
Luckily, looks like we're going to keep it. But this is from Henry McKenna. He's an NFL reporter. He's publishing this for Fox Sports. Why keeping the Tush push preserves what makes the NFL great. So a lot of times I pick articles that I think that I can pick apart. I think articles I think are bad. But I'm coming off of a 3-week hiatus here. I feel like I need to ease back into it. Keep on pushing, Philly, or as the Philadelphia Eagles posted, push on. The NFL voted at the owners' meeting on Wednesday to preserve the rule that allows players to push one another, thereby preserving the legality of the Tush push. From my vantage, the decision continued the precedent that the NFL is a league that rewards innovation and ingenuity. As ugly as the Tush push is, it is also genius. If you're like me, you enjoy the way players and coaches exploit loopholes in the league's rulebook. I love that. I have to say, like when someone catches the ball at a kickoff and steps out of bounds so that they can automatically go up to the 40 instead of being at the 23. I love that. Bill Belichick and Pop Warner for famous or infamous for it. It's how the forward pass was born, out of a decision to try to get away with something even the referees didn't know was illegal. And that cheeky decision now defines the game. Believe it or not, the tush push is a reminder that this game is much smarter than the average onlooker might expect. I agree to that. That's something that people who really hate football, they think it's just a dumb game that has no intellect involved in it at all. And it's honestly, it's more complex than like 8-dimensional chess, Keith. I don't know if you're aware of that.
I'm
It's
not a chess player whatsoever.
Well, just imagine something with 8 dimensions in it. And then, like, the knight can only move in certain ways, and, like, pawns can only take another piece if they're moving diagonally. Anyway, it's a reminder that this game is more bookish than the average onlooker might expect. As I understand the irony that a rugby-style battle of inches might seem as meat-headed as any play ever invented. But this play was born out of a loophole. It was born out of a close study and adherence to the rule book. It was born out of experimentation. And that's what makes the sport of football so special. See, there's no experimentation, there's no ingenuity, and there's no intelligent play in soccer.
I don't disagree.
Just want to get that on the record. Beneath the violence, there's chess. Oh, look at this. What the guy wrote. It's the same thing as what I already thought.
Dude, you are easing right back into it. Bam!
When I choose someone that agrees with me, I make my life a lot easier.
Oh, yeah, duh.
To be clear, this outcome to keep the tush push has come as something of a surprise. Maybe Jason Kelsey's presence had something to do with it. Former Eagles center lobbied owners to keep the play in existence just before the vote out in Minneapolis. I thought the tush push would die. The NFL is a copycat league, but no one has figured out how to copy this particular play. So it seemed most of them would decide to ban it because only one team truly benefited from the rule or loophole. Most thought the rule change would pass, which required the support of at least 24 teams. The vote to ban the play tallied to 22, 2 votes away. That is way too close, Keith.
Yeah.
Shamefully, like the Cowboys voted against it and all this, and it's like I get it. It's like the Eagles are beating us with it, but again, just become better at it than they are. Currently, and moving forward, no one can pull or lift the ball carrier. The proposed language stated that the players couldn't push the runner either. Teammates couldn't assist the runner except by individually blocking opponents for him. It was an effort to end the Eagles pushing Jalen Hurts or the Bills pushing Josh Allen on quarterback sneaks. It was an attempt to reverse a rule change from 2006 when players were first allowed to push their teammates. Up to that point, ball carriers could not be pushed, but teams were doing it anyway and officials weren't flagging it. Most often, the push occurred when a receiver caught the ball and, after making contact and seeing his momentum stopped, an offensive lineman or another teammate ran downfield to shove the ball carrier forward, sometimes over the goal line. If the officials weren't officiating the rule, then why include it? As they say in that book, No Country for Old Men, if the rule brought you to this point, then of what use was the rule?
Ooh, that's deep, buddy.
Thank you. He shot and killed a girl right after that.
Right. I remember.
Anyway, sorry, Tush. Good movie. When the NFL changed the rule in 2006, no one saw the push coming. This offseason, the failed rule proposal pitched by the Green Bay Packers, desperate to become relevant again, started the alterations in the name of the player safety, pace of the play. Player safety. I hate to say this, but I get a lot of complaints in the names of, it's about officer safety. I'm like, no, it's about me doing more work for you is what it's about. Sorry. You didn't need to hear that. Fox Sports, NFL, and other college football's rules analyst Dan Blandino didn't see it that way. He said there are generally 3 reasons for introducing a rule change. Number 1, player safety. 2, competitive fairness. And 3, officiating consistency. There's no injury data that shows this play is more dangerous than any other. It's more of a discussion of a second concept. To me, it's a competitively unfair play because we don't allow the defense to push a runner back and gain an advantage, right? Blandino told Fox Sports. The runner is always going to get that forward progress spot. We don't allow the defense to push on the field goal and punt block, push teammates into the formation and gain that advantage. There's also a safety element there. I don't know that I agree with that. But here, when the runner's progress is stopped, we allow the teammates to push and to gain that advantage. And very rarely are the officials killing the play. It definitely is an advantage for the offense. The Eagles have argued it's not about fairness. Big surprise that someone in Philadelphia would say it's not about fairness. They don't know the meaning of the word there. Those savages.
Savage.
But a play that requires practice and personnel, they have a unique advantage. Hurts is the most powerful running quarterback in the league. Philly is simply making use of that superlative, just like any other team would for its star players. And the Eagles have done it by inventing an ingeniously effective technique that they can do better than anyone else. Now that Philly has another Super Bowl win, imparting use to this particular play, many other teams have spoken out that it's unfair, including the Chiefs. Defensive coordinator Steve Spagnuolo told me he didn't think the play could be stopped. I think it would have been less controversial had the league made the, no pun intended, push to get this out last year. The fact that the Eagles have won the Super Bowl makes it much more like, oh, they're coming after us. Well, again, it just sounds like sour grapes from the Chiefs. Any final thoughts on the tush push, Keith, or whether or not you want to see it go?
I mean, just with what I said earlier. I mean, I think it needs to be kept. It just needs to be, better defended. I don't think there's anything unfair about it. Is it a play that sucks?
I like how physical it is, though.
Yeah.
It seems like we don't get enough pushing, shoving, and running. It's all the NFL has really changed to be like a pass-heavy league.
It's the closest you have to old school football.
Yeah, and they say that the defense doesn't get an advantage by pushing them back. Well, I get that the ball isn't spotted based off of backwards progress, but the defense gets the advantage of stopping their advance towards the goal to gain or to score. So
right. As soon as technically it should. I'm using heavy air quotes. It should be stopped when the forward or should be spotted where the forward progress stopped, but it doesn't always work that way. But then that goes into the whole referee argument that we continue to have as well.
Yeah. The Eagles won, but barely. The proposal, which needed 24 votes to pass, only received 22 out of 32. Here's the teams that reportedly saved the tush push by voting against it. So these are our hero teams. The Tennessee Titans, the New York Jets, the New Orleans Saints, Patriots, Dolphins, Jaguars, the Lions, Browns, Ravens, and of course, the Eagles. Cowboys owners tried to play it coy when asked how he voted, but it appears he was out to stick it to his divisional rival. Where did he land? He says, I don't know. I flip-flop, he says. By the way, he's looking even older than last year. Jones isn't the only member of the NFC East to make the decision. Both the Giants and the Redskins reportedly voted to ban the play. All three of those clubs have to play the Eagles twice, obviously. One team that plays against the Eagles in 2025 voted to ban the tush push. That would be the Lions, who are perfectly fine with the tush push sticking around. They play in Week 11. These are the ones who voted to ban it. So these are your teams who are in favor of tyranny, the Patriot Act, and everything that you hate. The Cardinals, Falcons, the Bills, Panthers, Bears, Bengals, Broncos, Packers, Texans, Colts, Chiefs, Raiders, Chargers, Rams, Vikings, Giants, Steelers, 49ers, Seahawks, Bucks, and Redskins. So it came really close to getting banned.
Yeah. Yeah, when I saw those numbers, I was like, oh, shit.
Yeah, I don't know. They've been neutering this league for a couple of years now, and I wouldn't be surprised. You know what shocks me in our republic is that when an issue gets decided on, we never fucking stop debating it. We just try again 4 years later, 2 years later. I guarantee you the tush push ban will come before the competition committee probably as soon as next year.
Yeah, I agree. Absolutely.
And my fear is that someone will get hurt or something on a tush push play. It'll be, Tua Tagovailoa will somehow end his career on a tush push play. He will die on the field, or Damar Hamlin will literally explode and somehow, I don't know. There's going to be some sort of dramatic, because so many decisions are based off of emotion. There's going to be some sort of emotionally based incentive for them to stop it at some point. Someone's going to say this play is just too dangerous. It has to be stopped. And that's not really new in football. If you go all the way back to the death harvest of 1909, Keith, in which 25 people died playing college football, there were calls to stop the game at that point, saying that it was too savage, too bestial, that it was the thing of Roman gladiators, that no place for a civilized society would have room for a game like football. And of course, we just changed football a little bit so that it would continue on. But I think we perfected the game probably in 1950, and really ever since, probably the last 25 years, we've really been watering it down. Ever since Roger Goodell got his hands on it, you know what I mean?
Well, it's between that and ever since the last Boy Scout, where firearms are being carried on the field.
I love that movie.
That movie is great.
Well, I didn't even know about that movie until you said it to me, and then I was like, "Holy shit!" The first 5 minutes of that movie.
That movie is awesome.
That scared me. We could move on to talking about Jim Irsay. I think some things need to get said about that, just out of respect and deference for the fact that he's a major player in the game. Jim Irsay died at 65. This Peyton Manning's moment was his favorite Colts memory during his 27-year reign as owner. So we'll go over some of his favorite memories. Irsay said the moment has meant so much. And there's a picture of Peyton Manning presenting him with a jersey. Jim Irsay took over the Indianapolis Colts in 97, and he was charged of the team for nearly 30 years before passing away on Wednesday at the age of 65, which is way too soon. You're pretty close to 65, aren't you?
I'm getting there. I'm getting there. I feel like I'm 75, but I'm getting there in dog years.
First thing I thought when I heard that he died was like, wow, it just really puts it in perspective that it really doesn't matter how much you accomplish in this life, because when it's your time to go, you're going to go. It doesn't matter if you own a football team. It doesn't matter if you own a yacht. It doesn't matter if you have $1 billion. Like when your number's up, you're checking out, bud.
Yep.
During his time as owner, Irsay got to witness several historic moments, including the team's 29-17 win over the Chicago Bears in the Super Bowl. Although that was an iconic moment for the franchise, it wasn't Irsay's favorite. The Colts owner was asked about his favorite moment during an NFL Network interview a few years ago. And he went all the way back to say that his favorite moment was during his second year as owner, Peyton Manning's first start in 1998. After watching the Colts go 3-13 during the first season as owner, Irsay wanted to improve the roster quickly and was able to do that, thanks in large part to the fact that the Colts had the number 1 overall pick in 98, which they used to pick up Manning. 5 months later, Manning was on the field for week 1 against Miami Dolphins, a game that would give Irsay a moment that would last a lifetime. When Peyton Manning took to the field as a rookie in his opening game, he said that was his favorite moment. I think Peyton has meant so much. Irsay said that Manning essentially bridged the gap between the two Colts eras, the Johnny Unitas era, which ended in 72, and the Manning era, which started in 1998. In between, there are lots of lean years for the Colts, and thank God they are back to lean years. Manning helped transform us from those great, great years with Johnny Unitas. He's mentioning Johnny Unitas, but he's also not mentioning Earl Morrall, which I feel like is a huge oversight, and I don't know. I don't really like that. And anyway, those great years with Johnny Unitas and those great things were from where we are now. He meant so much to us in his dedication to craft and being such great players. When Manning was drafted in 98, there was actually a debate that year about who the Colts should take between Manning and Ryan Leaf. Now that Ryan Leaf is now the night shift manager of a Del Taco, I think we know.
When I was reading that article, I completely forgot about Ryan Leaf.
I saw someone at the draft wearing a Ryan Leaf jersey, I think just because it was hilarious. Just to remind everyone to stay humble, I think that you could be taken second overall and you can, like I said, wind up working at a Del Taco. According to Irsay, the Colts were always leaning towards Peyton Manning. Peyton and Ryan Leaf, that was the real debate, he told Fox 59. But we saw Peyton as being the right guy. General Manager Bill Polian and I were with Jim Mora. Peyton and Ryan, you just learn certain things. The quarterback position is more than arm strength and stuff on paper from the combine. Peyton had all the right stuff. If he pulled the league, half of the league would have taken Ryan Leaf. They don't say it now. Chargers general manager Bobby Beathard, Hall, and Hall of Fame manager, they all took him. Peyton Manning in 1998, and ended up making his first start of the team on September 6th. And that was the memory that Jim Irsay most fondly remembers, was his first start. That's kind of a nice thing to say. It's his way of saying, like, hey, I don't just love you for what you did for me. I feel like just bringing you to the team was something that really turned us around. I think that's a nice thing to say.
Yeah, I know they were super, super close.
Yeah, there's Peyton's Places was it's a documentary series on ESPN Plus, and I think Jim Irsay has at least one appearance on that. So go check that out if you have ESPN Plus. It's a worthwhile show. Something else that I thought was interesting: Aaron Rodgers has spoken out against trans athletes. I think it's good, but you also have to wonder why, because we're not really in the situation where we have female athletes dressing up as dudes and competing for spots in the NFL. And if you think about it, that's perfect, because it shows that males and females can't really compete at the same level. The mere fact that we're not seeing trans players being able to even compete in collegiate football. The fact that it's not out there. But what did he have to say? This is also from Fox News. NFL star Aaron Rodgers became one of the highest profile athletes to speak out against trans athletes, allowing biologically male transgender athletes to compete in women's sports. He spoke out against it. During an interview with Joe Rogan, Rodgers made his stance on the issue perfectly clear, calling the transgender movement anti-woman. I have often felt that way, that if you love women and if you think women are special, then a man can't become a woman.
Right.
I've also felt that, like, you want to talk about the patriarchy and how men run things, and history is all about his story and never her story. Then why are you going to let your whole sex and your whole gender be co-opted by a bunch of men who want to go out and do what you do, but do it better?
Right. Steal your trophies and whatnot.
I don't know, but I'm glad that he was able to say something. Of course, it's not like Rodgers is exactly somebody who has a lot of standing or status right now as a kind of a man without a home. Rodgers then clarified his belief applies mainly in sports. That's what I mean, sports. You're not seeing trans men dominating anything. It's because there's a biological difference. Rodgers is an unsigned free agent. Do you see how they instantly try to discredit him a little bit?
Exactly.
This is Fox News, but they're just like, just so you know, this guy doesn't have a job. He's still a Super Bowl winning quarterback, but boy, like the shine has really come off of Aaron Rodgers. He's a free agent after departing the Jets after 2 seasons. The 41-year-old former MVP has been a lightning rod of controversy in the media for expressing conservative opinions during podcast appearances in the last 4 years. I wouldn't say he's necessarily conservative. I would say he's anti-establishment.
I think that's fair. That sounds fair. I mean, just with his actions over the last few years. Yeah, definitely.
I think
Have you seen him on Rogan yet?
I haven't. Obviously, I should watch it.
I have not either.
The quarterback was invited to become the running mate of the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services Director Robert F. Kennedy during Kennedy's independent presidential campaign. That would have been an insane ticket, Kennedy and Rodgers. Of course, they also wanted Rodgers to host Jeopardy, too. And it's saying things like this, which is why he didn't wind up on Jeopardy.
I forgot about that.
Yeah. Rodgers joins fellow former Green Bay Packers quarterback Brett Favre, also a person without much status, and wide receiver Donald Driver, and taking a vocal stance against allowing trans athletes to compete in women's sports. Favre has been outspoken about the topic since 2021. Rodgers spoke about the critical time and the ongoing debate over the issue. President Donald Trump signed an executive order mandating the institutions across the country, including you, Maine, allow only biological females to compete in women's and girls' athletics. I just don't get it. I don't get anyone who has a daughter or a sister in a sport and they're like, let's be inclusive, all are welcome, bring in this trans athlete to compete, because like it's not, you have to see sports as something trivial for that to be fine. You have to see it as playing, like you're playing on the playground. Collegiate athletes, Olympic athletes, they're playing for something that will affect the rest of their lives. It's not just something as insignificant as a stat line in a book.
They're invested. They've invested their whole life into that, to not just play, but to compete.
To get scholarships, to represent the honor of their entire country. And not only that, but there's a certain moral standard we have to suddenly hold ourselves to, right? Like we talked about this over last summer when the Olympics were going on, but you're going to tell me women's boxing, you're going to put a dude in that ring and that's not immoral? That's immoral. It's that's a man beating on a woman. That's not okay. That's not like competitors. It's just not fair. You wouldn't put a heavyweight in with a welterweight, and yet that's exactly what you're doing.
Yeah,
because
you're just throwing a different label on it,
right? Anyway, many Democrat-run states have openly defied the Trump order, prompting both internal and federal backlash. They know that all they have to do is hold out for 4 years, tie it up in court, and then they'll get what they want eventually. Department of Education is investing multiple states, high schools, sports leagues for potential Title IX violations. The Department of Justice is engaged in legal battles with Maine and Minnesota over the issue. God damn it, Minnesota. Will you ever stop letting me down? God. absolute shithole over there. Anyway, January New York Times. I'm sorry, but I also saw an article yesterday that says businesses in George Floyd Square are still struggling 5 years later. I'm like, no shit, because all the white people are not allowed to go there,
Right.
and like you probably have decent folks of all kinds who like simply just don't want the trouble of going to like the birthplace of insanity in 2020. Of going to you know, our answer to Kandahar. Why would you want to go over there when you could go elsewhere to shop? Anyway, January poll in the New York Times found that the vast majority of Americans, including majority Democrats, don't think transgender athletes should be permitted in women's sports. So we're saying something that most people agree with, and yet it remains controversial because the minority fringe out there being so loud. And that's really what they are. They get on their TikTok and they yell and they cry and they scream and they say how unfair things are. But I think there really is a huge swath of like reasonable people in this country. We've always kind of called them the silent majority, but I think especially on this issue, we have a large majority of people who don't want to see this happening. Now, Kiefer, I saw something funny the other day. If I had had the forethought, I would have printed this meme out. But someone wrote on Twitter or elsewhere, they said, so let me get this straight. Trans male or trans female athletes who are really men, they're too strong for sports, but they're not strong enough for combat. Okay. You know, to say that like they're too good to be in sports with women, but they're not good enough to be in combat. To which someone replied, and this is why I wish I had printed it out, because that person deserves all the credit in the world. But they said, so let me get this straight. They're too emotionally volatile and sensitive, so that when they start screaming and crying when they've been misgendered, but they're emotionally stable enough for combat. Someone called you a bad name that you're going to cry and scream and throw a fit, get on TikTok. Do you really think that you should be in a Saving a Private Ryan situation? Because I don't think that you should be. Can you imagine these TikTok trans people in an actual combat situation? Holy shit.
Oh my God. That is a great meme, though. That is very well thought.
I just invite you to consider people who, you know, being dead named or misgendered, that, you know, that it's so hurtful that it's now against the law in Colorado. The idea that person's actually going to go out and stand between you and someone that wants to destroy your freedom or take over your country. That's the person you're putting out in front. You might as well go fight for yourself.
Well, and it's funny, like we've talked about it on One More, with Dan Carroll's son was a hell of a high school swimmer, got a scholarship. He's a man, stayed a man, but he worked his ass off to get that scholarship, right? I mean, these people work, and it goes to the point you were saying earlier. They work their balls into the dirt to get their scholarship or whatever. And it was right around the time that Leah Thomas decided that he was going to be a she and win all these records and beat Riley Gaines and everything else. So we had Hassler, Dan's son, on the podcast, getting his take, just being a collegiate athlete. And it's no different than most of our opinions, but the amount of frustration that he was showing, just because he was essentially part of that. You know what I mean? Like that was a big hot button item that kind of got the ball rolling. And it's just the people's thought processes that think that this is okay and normal. Like we're from different planets.
And what makes me mad is that, for now, like I said, the majority is like the cooler heads, common sense is prevailing, but they never let it go. And it seems like they almost use pressure and erosive power of time to change people's minds. And if you think that I'm wrong about that, just like, let's look at the past 20 years of our lives, because it went from love is love and homosexuals should have the right to get married and all this, and it all seemed very reasonable. Why would you deny civil rights to someone on the basis of their lifestyle preference, or however you want to phrase it? Seems reasonable, particularly by today's standards. It doesn't sound crazy. Do I have to remind you, though, that President Barack Obama's first campaign for president in 2008 was marriage was between a man and a woman. That was like a vantage point held by Biden, Clinton, by all these liberals. And we transition, no pun intended, over the years to we have to be able to get married, to you have to make a cake for us, to your kids have to go to drag shows, to don't you dare use the wrong pronouns, you'll lose your job. Like,
or now we're going to read these certain books to kindergartners.
Right. And they say the slippery slope argument is a fallacy, but I get where you can't necessarily make an argument today and try to say, well, it's a slippery slope and you're projecting towards the future. But we can look at social issues and we can say, here's what has happened with the LGBTQ I-69 movement over the last 25 years, and we can project it 25 years into the future. We're seeing a massive takeover of the liberties of other people, and it's not really about fitting in or fighting it back against oppression. If that's how it was, it would be like this. You would hear stories of a gay married couple riding on the subway, two husbands holding each other's hands and someone throwing a milkshake on them, and then us trying to speak out and stop that. But it's so proactive and it's so overreaching to now where people like you and me and common everyday people are being intimidated about expressing our own beliefs, our own feelings, our own worldviews, whether they're based on traditional American values, traditional values, commonly held beliefs about biology that we have held since we have known biology existed, truths about our existence which transcend us, common knowledge, common belief, common sense. We're being asked to abandon all those things, even the meanings of words, as though pronouns were not a thing, so chromosomes were not a thing. We have to abandon all these things in the name of other people's feelings, the oh so sensitive people, the people who are the most loudest when their feelings get hurt so much, and feelings being put first and truth being denied existence itself. You could say that we have much to be worried about in the next 25 years, Keith.
I cannot even imagine what like my little family circle would be like if my father was still alive and if my grandfather were still alive.
They wouldn't believe it.
I mean, the amount of like just browbeating of what in the fuck is going on around here? These sons of bitches. Like, it's just, I couldn't even imagine what they would think, how they would react. And obviously, times change, things change, generations change. You know, there's that evolution. But, you know, because you take you and I, for example, we're fairly close in age, even though you said I was 65. We're fairly close in age, but, you know, you look at the generation of World War II. Those guys versus guys now, and legit guys that know they're guys that want to be guys. You look at the difference, and I couldn't imagine what my father or grandfather, like what they would be saying right now.
I can't imagine how dismayed they would be, to be honest with you.
I could say what they would say, but then we would
you'll lose your YouTube license. Why don't we shift back onto happier things? I feel like the heavy, deep political stuff, I feel like that's Eric territory. The NFL owners have voted to permit players to participate in the 2028 Summer Olympics flag football games.
I've got thoughts.
Do I want you to just go ahead and fire away before I even read the article? Or
no, read the article first.
Okay. This is from NFL.com. NFL players will be going for the gold in summer 2028. NFL owners passed a resolution 32-0. So no one had a problem with it at all. At the spring league meeting that will allow players to try out to participate in flag football in the 2028 Summer Olympics in LA. This is one rule that kind of confuses me. A maximum of one player from each team would be allowed to participate in each club's designated international player, and is also permitted to take part for his country. So the Bengals can put up one player, the Cowboys can put up one player. Is that what I'm to understand?
Yep, that is exactly how I read.
But the Cowboys and the Bengals could also put up a player for Canada or Jamaica.
I would think that would
I mean, we do have NFL players from other countries. So,
Right. Right. I think that tracks, or it should.
I think they're trying to keep it from building like a 1992 NBA style dream team. Remember when we sent Michael Jordan and Larry Bird and out to play basketball and we kicked everyone's ass? But I think we should be able to put together a dream team.
I think was on that team. Scottie Pippen, Hakeem Olajuwon, Scottie Pippen, Charles Barkley, all those dudes.
But here's the other thing, though. The Olympics are supposed to be amateur athletes. You have other countries out there, Lithuania and all this. They don't have an NFL, you know? They're going to put their best amateur athletes out there, and we're putting people out there who are eating avocado ice cream and, their whole life is eating, breathing, and living football. You have to ask, is it fair? The answer is, who cares? Because this is America, and we're going to go kick ass. But something I would like to say is, what would be cool? And I don't say this necessarily on the part of any one personality, but we could see people going out there and playing flag football for America to bring home gold for America. And they could be NFL players, but not necessarily current NFL players. The only feat that Tom Brady has left to accomplish on this earth would be winning the gold. And since it's flag football, meaning you don't have contact like you do in gridiron football, he's probably still physically eligible to play that. He could probably still go out there and compete for the United States team. And let's face it, gang, can you imagine the jersey sales for Tom Brady wearing a red, white, and blue United States of America flag football jersey? I think it would be a top seller.
You would have dudes at football games, like actual NFL games, wearing flag football belts.
Yeah.
With whatever Brady's number. If it's 12, he wants 12, and they're like, oh, sorry, it's been taken.
Yeah. So I don't really like flag football. Obviously, the NFL is trying to be cozy with that because they want to, number one, propagate the popularity of football throughout the world, but number two, have an option in case football becomes against the law someday by the same people who want to control you, fire you if you say the wrong pronouns. If they ever take over sports, they want to have an option that they can transition to, no pun intended. But I think it would be fun to see players who are retired going out and competing as amateurs for the United States if they could make the team. I think that it should obviously be a competitive process for them to make the team. Tom Brady should by no means be just handed a spot, but I wonder if he's even considered it. And that would be very interesting. And if you're trying to increase the popularity of flag football, and if you want to draw attention, not only that, but to the Olympics itself, having somebody like Tom Brady playing would be quite the way to do it. Keith, what are your takes on it? You said you had some.
Well, I like your idea better. Retired, not active. But I did see a funny meme, and I'm going to misquote it, but you'll get the gist of it is, announcing the lineups for, whatever, USA versus whoever. And it's, at wide receiver, Jamar Chase versus Bert Bromsky, the welder from Poland. Like, that's the way that shit's going to work, essentially.
The welder from Poland.
Like, he welds when he's not playing flag football. But
in my country, I do acetylene welding.
But I don't like this at all. And the fact that all of those owners unanimously voted yes for this. And I understand, you're promoting America, you're trying to win a gold medal, whatever. And I bring this point selfishly from Cincinnati in the fact that, we just spent a shit ton of money on a quarterback and 2 wide receivers, and we're trying to secure a defensive end who's being, I think both sides are being difficult in those negotiations. That's a whole nother topic. But the amount of money that these teams are putting out for these players now, you're going to have to reopen their contracts and say, okay, you want to go do this. You get hurt, then here's where your money goes down to. Like, to me, that would be a smart business move on the owner's part. And that may very well be in the plan. I don't know. All we know is just they voted yes for it. I think it's stupid, especially when you have fans like you and I who, support our team, and, let's just say Joe Burrow's the one that goes. He's our fucking big money franchise quarterback. And even though it's flag football, you could still roll an ankle, you could, whatever. Or somebody comes through and tears his fucking shoulder.
Yeah. What's the risk versus reward? I mean, like, yeah, you could have a chance to compete for a gold medal, whatever that means to a professional athlete. I don't even know what it means to them, to be honest, versus your contract.
Right. I just don't seeing how some of these owners are, the Jerry Jones,
maybe they realize most players are smart. They realize that someone like Joe Burrow is not going to go out for this, but you're going to see guys that are more, your punt returners and things like that. These are the guys that are going to go out there and play wide receiver. You know what I mean?
But look at all the divas that are in the league, high dollar divas. I mean, Jamar Chase is one of them. I mean, I'm not afraid to say it, but there's multiple across the league. You have these guys that want that extra pat on the back. They want that extra accolade. They want the extra fame. I think it's a horrible idea. And I mean, your idea, I think, is perfect. And I agree with you that it should be amateur shit. Now, to circle back, baseball did the same thing, though. But some of those players, a lot of professional baseball players are Dominican or Puerto Rican. Even though Puerto Rico's playing for us, but you have Dominicans that are going and playing, Japanese that are playing for Japan. So, they did the same thing and stacked the fucking baseball team. So I think it's terrible. I think it's a horrible business move, but what the fuck do I know? I'm just a dumb fucking fireman.
Well, maybe you'll get a good mix of players who are kind of on the fringe, kind of maybe more of those guys that are just about to fall off and go to the UFL, or you're about to retire or something. I would like to see some retired players, but you know what? What's interesting? There's only one person in the history of the human race who has both a gold medal and a Super Bowl ring. Do you know who that is?
Oh, hold on.
Better not be Googling it.
No, I'm not. Fuck. I feel like I knew this, but I don't right now.
Bullet Bob Hayes. He won 2 gold medals at the 1964 Tokyo Olympics in the 100-meter dash. And then he went and played as a wide receiver in the NFL.
Oh, fuck. I was 37 then. I should have known that.
For the Dallas Cowboys. He was the only person to have both an Olympic medal and a Super Bowl ring. That was a long time ago. I meant to ask you as we close out for the day, there's some drama going on over there in Cincinnati. You got several players who are not signing contracts. Shamar Stewart, Demetrius Knight, Trey Hendrickson. What's going on in Cincinnati?
So what I'm reading is their contracts weren't reading the same way as like former first round draft picks. And they wanted protection. They wanted full protection. And I'm not saying I agree with it, but this is just the way I read it. They wanted full protection when they're doing their practicing, their voluntary stuff, but they're not covered unless it's a mandatory or, organized team act, the OTAs. But they want to be out there, but they're not covered right now. So if they were to get hurt, their money's down the fucking toilet. So they wanted to be able to facilitate something. That's the way I read it. I saw that too, and I'm like, here we fucking go. Great. It's awesome. But that's the way I read that. They said that they were working on a resolution, but I don't know.
Did you see Trey Hendrickson's interview where he said that it was starting to kind of get personal and Cincinnati was his home? And
yeah, they weren't talking, and when they were talking, it wasn't productive. And now there's rumor. And do you remember what Myles Garrett signed for per year? Do you remember?
I don't know, other than it was a buttload of money, and the idea that they were going to have a Super Bowl winning quarterback. Now they have like 5 quarterbacks that could potentially be good. I'm going to love it when they have all 5 of these guys. By the way, Shadur Sanders and all these guys competing for this top spot, and they still end up going like 8 and 9. But go on with what you're saying.
So, all right. So I just looked it up. Garrett's getting $40 million a year, a 4-year, $204.8 million deal. Hendrickson wants more money. He still has a year on his contract. Now he's threatening to sit out, threatening to not play. But I just heard rumor because he's slated to get, I think, 16 or 17 million this year for this last year because he signed a 1-year extension last year. Well, they offered him, and I don't know the time frame, like how many years, but they were offering him 28 million is the rumor from multiple reliable sources. So $28 million a year for I would say probably a 3-year deal, 28 million per year. But he's looking for Myles Garrett money. Now, Myles Garrett's 31 or 31, I think. And Hendrickson's just getting ready to turn 31. But Myles Garrett and Hendrickson, even though they're both on the end, they're different positions. One's an edge rusher and one's just a fucking end. It's a little bit different when you break it down and look at it. But Trey Hendrickson had a phenomenal last 2 years, and I want to keep him and I want him to be paid. But I also want a resolution to this because if it goes into the season and he opts to sit out, he's already kind of making himself look a little greedy. But I mean, if he thinks he's worth it, then go ahead and fight for that. But we still have him for another year. So you decide to sit out, that's going to have some repercussions on you. So it might be better off take the 28 million and fucking play, produce, and you might be able to get a bump down the road. But he is getting older. So that's been like the big hot button item around here, even more so than our new draftees. But yeah, because he says it's getting personal, and he doesn't feel like it's in good faith and this and that. Well, and the Bengals are saying the same thing. I mean, it's just like any other. I used to be a part of a union. It's no different than contract negotiations with a union and a city administration. Oh, you're not bargaining in good faith. Well, you're not. It's a back and forth deal.
How would you feel if he got traded to the Bears, Lions, Giants?
Oh, I'd be sick. I'd be sick. I love him as a person. He's a great person. I've got to meet him a couple different times. Super, super great guy. Gives back to the community. Has excelled on the field the last 2 years. Averaging 17 sacks a season. I mean, that's nothing to slouch at. So, but yeah, I mean, if they can't get something done, then it's another fucking dumb move by the Brown family of the Bengals. I mean, and I've lived that my whole fucking life, though. So I wouldn't be surprised.
I was going to say, what do you think this telegraphs to other teams in your division, like the Pittsburgh Steelers? Does it say to Pittsburgh, don't worry, you don't have to try?
I mean, essentially, it's the way it seems.
That's how Pittsburgh's acting. Cleveland doesn't. We don't have exactly a lot of faith in Cleveland. Do you think they've already all given up because they just know the Ravens are going to take the division this year? Because it seems like everybody else is really like you guys are having, front office issues, and the Steelers just aren't even hiring anyone to play there.
One of the toughest, supposedly one of the predicted toughest divisions. There's a whole lot of fucking bullshit that's going on.
Interesting as always. Well, when's the next episode of One More and I'm Out of Here? Isn't it later today?
Yeah, today at 5 Eastern.
And what are you talking about today?
Well, we had a plane crash in San Diego.
Sad.
That was very sad. A couple lives were lost, multiple people injured, lots of houses and stuff damaged, a lot of people affected. I got a lot of funny videos of just like quick snippets. Dan sent me one of Pappas's ex-girlfriend videos, which are always fun. I found 2 more teachers that have been naughty with students. That's one of my favorite segments. Shame. Let's see what else. Trump pulling back the Harvard student visas. We'll hit on that. So yeah, we got a lot on tap.
Kind of makes me sad every time I'm in the chats and you don't make the whole show about me.
Well, guess what? You got it today, buddy.
All right. Well, we want to duck out of here in time for Failure to Stop. For those of you who are in the chats who like both shows, make sure you duck over to that channel. Looks like they're doing a case breakdown today of female police officer who got disarmed. Eric and Cameron and a special guest are going to break down that case. So go over there, check that out. Flip over to Failure to Stop. Appreciate you guys watching us over here. Thanks for keeping up with us. Make sure you go over to Ghost Bed, drop that off for code Wolfpack so they keep the lights on around here. Keith, it's always fun.
John, I've missed you.
I missed you too, man.
I love you.
I know. Catch you later, everybody. Make sure you're back here.
I think I did.
Make sure you're back here today at 5 for a brand new episode, complete with the full Andrew Pappas. Bye, everybody.
See ya.